of us spending nearly a third of our time at work, it's not uncommon for injuries to happen in the workplace. So tell me, Cassandra, what can you help with work-related injuries?
Yeah, we see a lot of work-related injury at Helping Hands. In fact, I think probably about 30% of the clients that we have come through our door are coming because of something that's happened at work. Often that can be an accident. So they might have tripped and fallen and broken a wrist, or they might have, been a bit tired on the old knife or something and cut themselves, or put their hand somewhere they just shouldn't have put their hand. So they tend to be sort of the trauma-related injuries, and we get a lot of them because, as you said, you're spending a third of your life, but pretty well all your work, Monday to Fridays there. And there's lots of accident time that can happen, during that period. So we see a lot of people with injuries, but we also then see people with more, RSI type injuries, so repetitive strain injuries, or what we now call as cumulative trauma. So the body is getting injured because of the repetitious nature of what someone is doing within their workplace. So that might be someone who's working on a computer, which is often, what a common RSI that people think. So if they're doing the same task every day, they're doing data entry, or they're doing just, bulk typing or mouse work, then some people's bodies are just not designed to do that. So they're going to end up with a painful wrist, a painful elbow, a painful shoulder because of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what we tend to see is that it's not necessarily, someone might have been in the same position for 5 years, but it will tend to be they've got this pain because suddenly someone was on leave, so they were doing extra work, or there was suddenly a deadline, so that there was suddenly, they were doing more than they normally would. And that's when we tend to see people injure themselves more often than just day to day. It's that something was a little bit different at their workplace and they ended up doing too much. So computer related work is one side of things, but then there'll be people on tools who are just doing tool use, and they're doing too often, or they're doing the tool use that they've always done, but suddenly they've turned 40 and they just can't do it anymore. And so we tend to see lots of tradesmen, or even women in hands-on tasks that haven't had any issues, like hairdressers, for example, no issues their whole career, and suddenly they hit 40 and bang, everything starts to hurt. So it can be work related, but age, it can be a factor, unfortunately. And then there's just people who, they might have started a new job that might have, suddenly they're required to lift boxes above their head, that they've never done that before. Their shoulders have never done that particular type of activity. And they don't think much of it because they're 19, 20 and they know they can lift. It's not really an issue. But suddenly going from not doing a task to repetitively 20, 40 times a day lifting something overhead can just be enough for the body to say, no, I don't think so. This isn't a good idea. And then they can get injured themselves.
So how can work-related injuries be treated then? Because you've just named a heap.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, like it's a little bit difficult to say how can they be treated because there's so many varieties of injuries that come through our door. But essentially at Helping Hands, we treat all of them, but the first time someone comes and sees us, we'll be looking at, well, how is that injury caused? How long have they had that injury, and what symptoms are they getting? And the first thing we normally do is try and resolve the pain-related symptoms, because that's really what people get bothered by. It's really, no matter what's happening from, a musculoskeletal side of things, it's really the pain that tends to be the motivator for someone to seek treatment. So we always start by trying to reduce someone's pain, whether that's by applying like some soft tissue treatment or some hands-on actual treatment. Sometimes is that we need to apply like a brace or something to rest the parts of the body that have been overworked. And sometimes it's a matter of liaising with the workplace, liaising with the doctors to make sure that someone's under a suitable duties program so that they're still able to go to work, but they're not necessarily doing the tasks that are continuously aggravating their condition. So depending on what symptoms and depending on what condition will depend on what treatment we offer. But essentially we're able to treat someone from the first time they come and see us and they're sort of, really upset about their injury to all the way with strengthening, conditioning, getting them back to those really full on their normal tasks.
And obviously learning how to not fall back into that injury stage.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. Like I think often we have to have a real education piece and a bit of a detective work to start with, to try and understand how did that person get the injury, because often they don't know. So really piece together, well, what do you do, and what does your body have to do at work, and what's changed recently, and when did you first notice it, and what was different at that time, and really piece together these pieces that they hadn't thought of. Often they're like, oh, I don't know, a few weeks, and I don't know, I wasn't really doing anything. But often once you put the detective hat on, you can actually say, actually, I think it was this time when so-and-so was away and you were picking up the phone twice as much as you normally would, and you weren't set up at that particular desk because it wasn't your desk, and that's when you started to have this pain.
Wow.
So it's a bit of detective work, which can be a little bit fun. Yeah, and then once you know that, once you can have an appreciation of how that actually happened, then reversing it and making sure that they're very aware of that, and that they know that they can't repeat that behavior without an expectation that they're going to have some pain as a result.
So besides not going to work, how can work-related injuries be prevented?
It's often a matter of just making sure that people aren't doing the same task over and over and over again, if it's a physical task, or making sure that there's adequate rest breaks, making sure that they're standing up to go to the bathroom every hour, or to go and get a water, or even just to go to the printer. So sometimes it's good not to have everyone's equipment really close, so that it's almost a force getting up, changing position, walking around, having a break. Also, we talk a lot about people who are, having ergonomic setups. So making sure there's a headset if it's someone who's talking a lot on the phone and needs to be typing in the one position. Ensuring that people aren't working on laptops if that's what they do all day. They need a proper computer setup that's set up with a proper monitor, proper computer, keyboard, proper mouse. So looking at all the ergonomics. And then just, when you come to the more physical work, I mean, we have an injury prevention program. So Helping Hands will actually go out to factories or mills or whatever it is, and look at a particular task that the employees are needing to do, analyze the task, and then teach the employees how they can do that task in the best way. So it might be making sure they're keeping their wrists straight, making sure their shoulders aren't reaching overhead, whatever it is, looking at that task specifically and giving them specific advice on that.
Because you do workplace assessments as well for officers to make sure everything's nice and ergonomic and give advice.
Yeah, so we do that. We definitely do that, going in from a workplace perspective, looking at, as I talked about before, keyboard, mouse, monitor, making sure everyone's chairs set up the right way. So we do that from an office perspective, but we do also get our steel caps on and our hard helmets on and go out to, bigger industry type, really hands-on work, and do the same thing, but with machinery and with pipes and all sorts of things.
How exciting.
Yeah.
So as you can see, work-related injuries can be frustrating to deal with, but rest assured there are plenty of treatments out there that may work for you. So if anything mentioned today has touched you in some way, get in touch with the Helping Hands team today. They would love to help you.